Hello, my name is Dr. George Mochocki, and welcome to our supervision series. This week, or this session, we're going to be talking about Chapter 17, or Section 17, Appraising Performance from a Supervisor's Perspective. Remember, you're taking me in an online class or a face-to-face class or one of my workshops, and this is just a quick overview of what we've covered within our forums, through your reading, or through our lectures or our discussions. Okay, so let's get right into the meat. From a supervisor's perspective, or from a manager's perspective, since I'm a small business and open up my own a business, may have 5, 10, 15 employees, basically about the same amount of employees or span of control that we've learned that a supervisor in a medium or a larger organization would have, depending on the expertise of their employees and the complexity of the job or the task that the supervisor is supervising. So the span of control is either going to be narrow, or it's going to be very broad. Okay, so let's look at performance appraisals. As a manager, as an employee, I always dislike those. As a manager, it takes so much time for each individual, especially usually when you do a performance appraisals, it's more for your managerial or your salary worker. Though you could, as a smaller business, you could have that one-on-one even with union members. But usually you'll see it more in more of a formal procedure in medium and larger organizations. Not to say that small businesses should utilize this, and I strongly do recommend that. So performance appraisals. What do we have here? Remember, you already have access to my concept maps, and this is just another way of retaining and remembering the information that we covered. Formal feedback on how well an employee is performing his or her job. The purpose of the formal appraisal is to help the employee improve. Employees need to know how they're doing. Can motivate employees, or it could demotivate them. Some employees take that to heart, and you have to tell them, we all need some place to develop. Even myself, I need some areas of development, and then and that's how we grow as a learning organization. Because remember, you're walking the walk. You're telling them about learning organization, and this is just part of the process. We all have areas that we could improve on, including myself. Okay, so help employees motivate, provide important records for the organization. Okay, so it does tell if there's any kind of disciplinary action or a layoff, and some layoffs are tied to your performance reviews. Usually, if you have 2 consecutive poor performance reviews, they could say now you've created a habit or a downward trend. Because a lot of times they would just have one, and then a lot of times when they go into the courts and somebody says, well, you had excellent reviews until this year, you provided me a poor one, and that's because the organization was laying off individuals, and you're trying to get rid of all of your older, mature, experienced workers and replace it with younger, less expensive workforce. So you just did it. So a lot of companies will give you the 1. You should challenge it if you don't think it's accurate. And second, when you get the second one, now they can lay you off or do something and say it's not discriminatory or age discrimination because you've already created a pattern or a trend. 2 consecutive, and sometimes they even wait for 3, depending how long you've been there. 3 consecutive. Downward trends or negative reviews. Okay, so now the appraisal process. Now let's go. I'll just close these off real quickly. And if I look at the appraisal, let's just go with this. It says, you got to communicate to the individual. You got to just measure to observe and measurements, and you have to reinforce it. So if I look at this real quickly at the appraisal process, establish and communicate expectation for the performance. Usually at the beginning, I'll sit down. I have my expectation, and I ask the individual so we could work out with what he or she could feel. Remember, some individuals will go down real low, lowball me, so they'll have an easy year. I kind of have, you could probably get away with that for the first time you've managed. After a while, you have a good idea of which areas are more productive or which areas have a higher potential, because you do have some research you could find out on the demographics and the growth as a supervisor or even as a small business owner. You have a real good understanding, or you wouldn't be in business, or you wouldn't be in that position. Or if you are in that position, you're not going to be in that position for a long time. Okay, so you established an expectation for them. When I used to go in there, I'd always come in with 4 or 5 goals that I wanted to achieve no matter what, and the supervisor would always ask the employee, bring 2 or 3 of your own goals, and I'll add on 2 or 3 of my own, the supervisor's goals that he or she has that they need to complete as part of their objectives for their supervisors. Their managers that they report to. Establish and communicate standards and measuring. Here's how I know you achieved it. You have to get it by this date. You have to do so many workshops, or you have to do so many cold calls, or whatever, or have so many meetings with your employees, or have so many safety checks, or whatever, depending on the task that you want the individual. Just don't give him stuff or her give him stuff just to do stuff to give him busy. Give him stuff that will improve the organization, improve him or her, and also improve their processes going forward. So as a first-line supervisor, I would give my employees that work with me, my direct reports, as a manager, certain tasks that will develop them and also help the team and my process and everyone blossom going forward. Okay, observe and measure an individual's performance against standards. So I have to have a baseline. Here's where you're starting out now. This year, I want you to increase your sales by this much. I want you to have less customer complaints. I want you to have less errors on your paperwork, whatever it is. But here's a baseline. Last year you had this one. But it's something that the individual could manage himself. Reinforce performance and provide the remedies if it doesn't. So that's basically what this whole process was. Okay, calls for poor performance, inadequate skills. Remember, sometimes the individuals just may not have the ability. I had some engineers or some individuals that were in construction. They loved to work. They loved to pay, really, basically what it was. But they were sweating. They were nervous. They made other people nervous, had a lot of accidents, or they had a lot of errors. They couldn't remember the things. They were already out. They were working for me for a year and a half, and I got a brand new employee that's already in 3 months. I've given him or her harder work than this person has been there, and it's getting paid more. So, so he may just not have, or she may have the skills, and you have to cut them loose. You'll hopefully find another place so they don't get too many negative reviews. It's not fair for the team. It's not fair for the whole process. Shortcoming of the process, and that could be something wrong, that the process isn't designed right. As a first-line supervisor or an owner, you should be able to bring it up to the next level and say, we need to improve this process as part of the learning organization. So they bring it to you, you bring it up forward, and this is how we learn as a collective, and this is how organization has to work together, not separate silos. I'm doing good and they're doing bad. If the building falls and I'm in the middle, I'm going down with the rest of the building because I don't want to help to build up the foundation. External conditions and personal problems. There's a lot of things that will affect the individual. What to measure in an appraisal. This is this. Do not label people with certain characteristics. I want focus on the behavior and the results. Base conclusions on observations about the behavior and the results. You have to give them examples. That's one thing when you're looking at the. I try to do as much as I can that's objective. You did so many tasks, you did this. But some of the subjective things, you have to be able to write examples and show the individual, look, you blow off too quickly. No, I don't. Look at yesterday. The individual came up and they yelled at him, well, I just blown off my steam. He had the right to it. What about this other one? This little old lady came in, or this elderly woman came in, and you did, I don't know, I didn't do it. Or you go to the other one. You don't like talking to this type of an individual. You talk down to them for whatever reason. Well, there whatever reason, you know what I mean? So you have to have the examples, and then they could see, I want you to improve on that. And this one, and I'll be watching you, you know what I mean? Or whatever. And then you come back and tell me how you're doing, okay? And then record it like anything else, at least one specific example. So that makes it easy. Okay, effective performance qualities. And if I look at this one, it has to be objective, it has to be job-related, within the employee's control. Don't make him do something that he or she has no control over. If it's another department that's slowing it down, he or she gets it in there, but it's not on their priority list, and everything is late, and then we'll look at it. They turn it in on time, but it wasn't processed by the other department. How could I blame this individual? I can't, you know what I mean? So you have to make sure it's under control, related to specific tasks. Okay, so that's basically all this is here. And then basically the guidelines, even when I'm looking at behavior, there are the Equal Opportunity Commission saying so you don't discriminate. Behavior and characteristics should be measurable. So if I'm looking at a friendly behavior from a waitress, I should be smiling. I can't be always having a frown. Like it or not, that's a behavior. People don't like somebody coming up to me, may I help you, sir? You know what I mean? I want a little smile. At least look like you're glad to see me. I'm there to spend my money. That's what's paying for your wages, okay? Related to the jobs and to succeeding. If you don't like the job or the task, that's what you agree with your supervisor, ask for a raise, or then find another part of an employment. That's how I look at it. A lot of times I'll take on jobs, and after I say, oh man, I really did it, but I signed a commitment. Until my commitment ends, I will do the best and give them 110%. And that's why you get a lot of jobs back, and that is basically the ethical, and that's what they're looking for supervisors, not the ones that are mediocre. Mediocre, I could get those all the time. I want the individual that goes above and beyond. But I don't want to burn him out. I'm not taking advantage of him or her. He's always thinking. He's always positive. He's always helping other people. He's always in the right places. And once in a while, sure, he or she has a bad day, or once in a while, they'll say things I may not want to hear, but they're always truthful. And I know exactly where I stand with the individual. That's the type of supervisor I want. That's the type of employees I want to work with me. They know where I'm coming from. I know where they're coming from. I'm not taking advantage. I'm not micromanaging, but I know that there's certain behavior. Some of the individuals have to have the behavior for the job that they're dealing with. If I'm just doing accounting, okay, you got to be very quiet. I'm looking for behavior that is very attentive. If I'm looking for someone with sales, I want that personality and behavior. I want that person who could deal with individuals. Okay, so there's guidelines. You could do that. But the individuals should know what you're doing. There's a lot of assessments that are done that have been reviewed and will stand mustered against the EEOC and basically any kind of legal action you have. Okay, pay reviews. If I look at pay reviews, for lack of better things, review the wages or salary at the time of performance. Most of your raises come right at the reviews. I always knew I'd get a little piece of paper, here's how much you made. Ooh, I said, I made $2,000, and I divided that. So man, it's not really much every week, but it was $2,000 over the year. It looks a lot at that time. When you break it down by payday, maybe it was like $20 or $30, but that was a lot at that time. It still wasn't as much as I wanted to, you know what I mean? But we all have it. Now, the employee basically may focus on the issues of the money when you tie the two together. So when he or she focuses on the issue of money, it diminishes the supervisor's motivating and coaching opportunity because they're focused on how much should I get. So what you may want to do is focus on the money later, working on all this, and then the money would be at the end. Here's how much you get. I used to have a slip of paper, and they'd tell me, but I never knew. I talked to the other person. I looked all right. I was a new individual. Okay, types of appraisal. Just a whole bunch of different types of appraisals, and I'll go through some of them. Graphic rating, that's okay. And I'll go through, rates the degree to which an employee has achieved various characteristics, mostly common use. Certain graphs and scales. Paired comparison measures the relative performance of an employees in a group, finds out outstanding employees in the group. Some of the drawbacks are possible harm to morale of the team or the individual, teamwork, possible lawsuits. Okay, so I'm comparing individual to other individual. Forced approach, and that could be forced ranking. Usually it's when an individual or a supervisor that's grading everyone equally or grading everyone above and beyond. So here's how it looks. Here's how I look at it if I would be a supervisor working for me. If you turn in your performance appraisal, and that's tied in with a certain amount of percentage of a raise that an individual will get. So if they get, it's almost like a GPA. For an A, you get so many credits. For a B, you get so many credits. So look at it in that kind of a perspective. My whole thing is a performance for appraisal. If I had my ways, I would just, instead of saying meets expectation, exceeds expectation, I would go A, B, C, and D. And F. Makes it easy all our life for A, B, C, D, and F. That's the way it should be in the workplace. I can know I got a B, I'm a B person, I'm a C person, I'm just meeting expectation, I'm a D person, I most likely be on the way out. Okay? D's don't transfer, D's I don't last long. F, man, I'm definitely on the way out. All right, but it's easier for the individual. But whatever the rating is. You rate them in the individual. So what they do, they tell you You have 15 employees, you rate them 1 to 15. I don't care. There's no number 1 through 15. So now you rate everyone 1 through 15, and then the last two that are at the bottom you usually let go or something else because they're your poor performers. The other thing is if you rate everyone exceptional, and you may have a team that everyone is exceptional, they're the best, that means I should see the output of that team is the number one in the whole company. You have the least accidents, the most productivity, because that would justify a rating of exceptional all individuals. If you're rating everyone all exceptional and your team is mediocre, don't give me excuses. That's the external environment. That is the external locus of control. I want the internal locus of control. Yes, I understand that I take responsibility. They didn't have it. We blew it. We didn't do it. So you rate them back. Just like in sports, you can't rate the team number one. You haven't ever won anything. Okay. Essay approach, and this is kind of good. Use with other drawbacks. Depends on the supervisor's writing skills. It depends on the writing, because a lot of times I have to do a write-up to my manager because he or she's looking at to evaluate. What I normally do with the essays, I put it one level lower. When I look at the individuals, I'll tell them to do an essay just real quickly. Tell me why you think you need a promotion. Tell me why you think you need a higher raise. So write me everything else. And the reason for that is a lot of times over the whole year, I may forget on some of the assignments that I assign my individual to, because he's doing a lot of different things. So by him or her writing that, I could see this. I said, oh my goodness, I forgot all that. And it gives me something to build on. I have my own idea, and it gives me stuff that I might have eliminated. On the flip side, of the employee sees that they have nothing, it's a real easy interview, because they say, well, sure, I haven't done anything. And, oh my goodness, And plus it helps the employee to look at their own self-evaluation, and be able to go into, if they did a lot of things, be able to go into that meeting and say, look at all these things I did. And Joe, they try not to compare, but they do. I know he didn't do as much as I did, but don't I think deserve it. So the employee has a good way of negotiating, and it's a fair meeting between two powers at an equal and same baseline. Just because I'm a supervisor and you're an employee, the only reason I'm getting my promotion, my raise, because you're a good employee and you're basically achieving all the goals that I made commitments to, and you're working for me. So I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for you. So it's a two-way street, but it puts us on the same playing level. Okay, behavior anchors, bars. Employees rated on scales containing statements describing performance in several areas, tailored to organizational objectives, lists objectives, advantages. And here's some bars for nurses, if I'm looking at nurses. Let's see here. The nurse could be expected to put extra time and care to ensure patients' comfort very high. This nurse would be expected to read nurse's journal to improve skills. And see, and you would put them in different sections on the bars. And this is a program I use at the college level, and some businesses are using. It's called CATME. It's comprehensive assessments of team members' effectiveness, and it basically is a bar system. But it says, was George a good team member? Did George contribute to the team by doing his tasks on time? Was George a team leader? And it gave a description, so the individual, when he or she's rating, instead of just good, fair, they'll actually ask you, did he or she meet these descriptive objectives or things or attributes or skills, and you mark them, and then they'll give it to me into a bars or a rating scale that I can basically see. Is similar to that. Okay, checklist approach. Those are basically drawbacks on the checklist. Difficult to prepare. No way to adjust the answer to the circumstances. Yes or no, if I'm looking at this, does the employee really cooperate with others in competing work? It could be the other individual, could be jerks or whatever. But it's real quickly, boom, 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 boom. A lot of times checklists are used for like waiters or waitresses. Did she pick up this thing? Did she clean the work area? You check it off real quickly. When I come up on the job, I use a checklist. Are the safety cones out? Are the flashers out? Do I have so many things? Those are all OSHA required by law, by highway safety. Do they have their hard hats? Do they have their, did they they have the half-an-hour job briefing before they went up, and those are things that they should be done. So the checklist there, these are first things you have to do before you even start to work, and then you start doing the critical thinking. But these are preparing you to put you in the right mindset when you're doing the check. So checklists are still utilized, but you could do them for performance also. Okay. Critical incidents appraisal, you basically record of incidents that shows positive and negative ways to the employee that's acted. You don't have to write a whole paragraph, a whole story. I had an individual that when they were working for me and had direct report, write paragraphs. I said, "You time out, dude, or do this." Just basically just write, George at this time I saw him did this. It's just a date and everything else. It'll come back to you. Trust me. After a while, all you need is the main points, just like I'm doing here in these mind maps. You'll come back. Work standards approaches. Do they meet the standards of the work? Is the quality rejects? Are they building into specifications? Give or minus, whatever it is. So those are real easy to do. Management by objectives is basically I sit down with each employee, and it's usually more for managers or supervisors, and I give them certain goals and objectives that I want them to do. Management by objective by 6 months, 3 months, every 3 months. But I always tell the employee, you can always come to me earlier if for some reason the objective that we agreed on, because of the external environment, things happen, there's no way you could accomplish it. The company you're going to try to take out to lunch, they went bankrupt, what are you going to do with that one? You got to come back, so I'll try to find another company and substitute something for you so you can still meet your objectives. But, something out of your control, but it's part of your evaluations, okay? And then 360 is basically, 360 used to be just for developmental purpose. Now 360 is basically where when you do it, if you're doing an evaluation on the trainer, or if you're in a college and you're doing a teacher's evaluation or opinion or on the instructor, you basically are doing a 360. You're telling what you like. My manager or dean or whatever could come in, sit in the class, and I'm doing great, but they're not there the rest of the time with how I'm interacting with the students when they're not around. So this way it gives me feedback. It also does my peers will rate me, how do I play in teams, to share my resources with other supervisors at my level, if I have some extra capacity or help them out. Also, my boss rates me, I rate myself, and if I touch some departments more than I do others, they'll rate how they like the service that I provided them, or the interaction as a supervisor I provided them, or how do my team members interact with their team members. Remember, two supervisors are fighting, it'd be like two parents are fighting. The kids know it, your team members know it, they also fight. Something happens, it gets up to the higher level, it's kind of embarrassing. You both supervisors got to come in there, or your boss got to reduce an agreement or a disagreement with you. Been there, trust me. It's not a nice thing, but I had my say though, okay? We're not all best. Okay, sources of bias. You have harshness bias. Here's the chart on the sources of bias, and I'm looking at, these are just a whole bunch of them. Just be careful. Renesi syndrome, halo effect, random choices, similarities to look at somebody else that did something wrong, leniency, proximity, closer to something that just happened, central tendency of bringing everything together, prejudice. We all have our own prejudice, whether we realize or not, depending on culture, things that happen to us, family, and everything else. Harshness bias. I'm too harsh on one individual over another one, and this is basically, harshness is rating employees more severely than their performance merit. Remember that if you're doing any kind of evaluation on me, did I do it right? Did I help you out? If I did it, then write me wrong. Just because you failed the class, not failed the class, the whole student will fail the class. But if you didn't do well on the exam or on the testing, on the rating, don't blame me if you didn't study. Remember, be fair. If I did everything you did, and it's the same thing as looking at your employees. Some employees, I want to choke them, not really literally choke them, but you want to shake them. Hey, you might come and snap out of it, what's going on. But they're doing certain tasks, they're doing very well. They just may not do well with emotional intelligence or working with other team members. It just really makes it difficult for the team, because it puts a lot of stress on the whole team, other than external stresses that are normal for the operation. Okay, so maybe harsh on a similarity bias, tendency to judge others more positively when they're yourself. One thing that I could tell, they've dropped the mold when I had, because nobody is like myself. I'm only kidding. We're all unique, but we're all similar and everything else. So just remember some of those similarity biases. Leniency bias, rating employees more favorably than the performance merit. I feel sorry for the person, or whatever reason. Essential bias, tendency to select employees' ratings in the middle scale to be on the safe side. Everyone gets a B or C. Proximity bias is tendency to assign similar scores to items that are near each other on the questionnaire. Okay, just to remember some of your biases. Now, the last one is performance interview. And if I'm looking at this whole performance, here's what you do. Performance, purpose of the performance. When I have the interview, I actually sit down. I let them know this is our yearly performance or quarterly performance, or this is just to let you know some feedback, just to let you know where you're at. Communicate information about the employee's performance. Remember, put the employee at ease, even if it's going to be a poor performance. Make sure you have a nice room, give them a cup of coffee. Still put them at ease. They're still individuals. Treat them with respect. You can say you screwed up, you messed up. You don't say that. You messed up. I know you got a better potential than this. It just wasn't one of your quarters here. Let's see how I do next quarter. Is there anything else I could do to help you? And you can start off that way. Always on a positive. Still individuals. They're feeling bad. I've been in those situations. Come on, preparing. Allow plenty of time, for completing the appraisal forms. Just paperwork. Sometimes I'll talk to them and I'll do this and I'll type it up and then you could sign it. We could add it later, because I want to be fluid while we're talking, but I want to be writing. It'll be there forever. Okay. Notify the employee that the time of the proposal ahead of time, so he or she could schedule and get themselves in the mindset, get their own individuals, their own papers when they come in. Don't come in there like sheep. Come in there. Here's what I've done. Here's what you did, so we can compare notes. And maybe I overlooked something. We still are human. Prepare appropriate meeting place. A lot of times, don't do it where people will look at it. You can meet off site, or if you have your own office closed out, people know I come in there. I sometimes like those things, but sometimes I miss those things. Now as a consultant, I don't have to worry about that. I still get rated, but not the same way like that. Conducting, problem solving, make sure they sign off and follow up and process of conducting is basically, okay, we'll look at this one. Now, if I'm looking at signatures, if an employee does disagree with you and say, I'm not signing this, that's not it, it's a poor review, you don't have to force him to sign. You could just say, we met on this day, and you write that the employee does not want to sign the paperwork. It's like on the ticket, you have to sign it. Just to give you the ticket, just take your license, you have to put a bond or whatever it is. But you don't have to sign it. You just know that you didn't sign it, and it's your word against mine, or for lack of better words, I'm your supervisor. Here's how I rate you, whether you agree with it or not. This is how I'm rating you. And give you a copy. Now, the other things I always would tell is if you don't agree, good or bad, you could always write a rebuttal. I'll staple this. I disagree with George. I've done that at work, and I always encourage employees to write a rebuttal if they don't agree with my review. So another manager look at it. Well, here's George. Yeah, he is really a micromanager, and I can see this. I can see why he did this. Okay, or why he would write that. Or I just see their point of view, put the employee at ease. And here's the whole figure. It's basically when I'm looking at this, you put the employee at ease when they come in, review the appraisal rating and the basis for the rating. Here's what we're going to go through. And when I'm doing this now, every time I do this lecture, it brings back memories when I had to do that, on both sides of the coin. Okay, request, and it doesn't get easier either way. That's probably the worst part of the job. And even on the good ones, you have to sit down, and there's a lot of work involved in both of that. Is it effective and everything else? It does let you, at least an employee, know where they're going, which way, where they're at, and it gives the employee a formal way of communicating with you, and how to solve problems. But it's very costly, timely, because I have to do it, set it up, I have to sign it, and I have to meet them again every 3 times. Or if I have the right work, I used to like it when I was working for the president, vice president of the organization. A lot of times I would never sit down with him. He'd sit down and say, George, you're doing a heck of a good job. Work a little bit on this, work on this. And he filled out the whole thing. I had this whole thing. It was filled out, never seen it. And he filled out the paperwork and submitted it. And that's the way that it should be. What I mean? But this thing, the formal process, because people are going to sue me, people are going to do that. We want to make sure people are doing it properly. That is such a nightmare. But it has to be done. If the organization is doing it, that's a part of the process. When you go technique for organizational behavior or procedures, how do I fine-tune this review process, but still it's effective, and still the employee can sit down with not all the formality, but actually a one-to-one conversation from the heart, and we could resolve this and go forward. Again, so that takes care of, let's see, do I have this? What else do I have? Just so I don't forget everything else. Nope, we're doing pretty good. We've got everything else. So now, if I'm looking at this, so now we are all done. This is, let's see, do I have everything in here? Oh, pretty good. Let me just make this just a little smaller, and we'll end this. Okay, my name is Dr. George Mochocki, and we've completed another series in the supervision from a supervisor's perspective, or a small business manager, owner, entrepreneur. We talked about how to do performance appraisals, talked about a little about the processes, causes for poor performance, so when you go in there, you have an idea how to help the individual, how to measure an appraisal, effective qualities of a good performance appraisals. Your pay review should be tied in with when you're doing appraisals. That's one way, or should there be two separate issues or two separate meetings, types of appraisals, different biases. We all come in, as a supervisor, try to minimize those biases and grade the individual as much as you can on objectivity. The biases a lot of times comes in on the subjectivity, so try to be 80% objective, 20% subjective. If you're doing a subjective areas, make sure you have examples in performance appraisals interview. How do you go in there and get to the individual at ease? Again, my name is Dr. George Mochocki, and I'll see you in the next series. I think this may be the last one in the supervision series for this one series, but I do teach management, HR, advertising. I'm a double major, many other courses, many other disciplines that ties in underneath my doctoral expertise, both in the business world and academic. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.